You've got questions, I've got answers. This question is, we just lost out on our second offer. What do we need to do to win? Stay with me and you'll find out.
You better get fired up.
Guys, happy Friday. Good to see you. I'm here every single Friday at 11 o'clock with You've Got Questions, I've Got Answers, where we answer your biggest questions in the real estate world. Today's question focuses on how to rate a good offer, a winning offer that you know is going to help you secure that home. And while it's never going to give you a 100% chance, it's certainly going to up the odds. I think a lot of people focus on price, and we'll touch on price right away in the beginning. But price is just a part of it. And if you're a really good negotiator, if you're a really seasoned realtor, you're going to be able to talk with your buyers about a lot of different options that have nothing to do with price that'll make your offer look so much better, right? So first of all, let's touch on price. Could you come in 10, 20, 30 grand over and win the house? Sure. But do you want to spend 10, 20 grand more just to win the house? Well, I'll answer that with two answers. First of all, would you want to lose the house over $10,000? I can't tell you how many people have tried to negotiate $5, $10, $15,000. They lose and they say, oh my God, I wish I would have just spent the money. What's the difference between 450 and 460? But when you're in the heat of it, people get caught up in the negotiation sometimes so much that they forget about how important the home is. But you've got to ask yourself that question. That's not a me question that can be answered. That's a you question. You've got to answer yourself. It's a little bit different for every single situation. But if you love that home, go get that home, right? However, if the home, let's just say, is 450 and you would pay 460, instead of just giving up 460, there are two things that you can do to help yourself protect from giving up that money for no reason. Number one, have your realtor call the listing agent. Have a great conversation. 90% of the time, if I'm a buyer's agent and I call that listing agent and I say, hey, my buyers are thinking about putting in an offer, we should be able to have it to you by tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Would that work? 90% of the time, probably 95% of the time, they're going to say, absolutely, that sounds great. Is there anything I can do to answer any questions or, whatever it is? And if they've got an interested buyer, they're going to say, just so you know, we have an interested buyer. So 8 a.m. tomorrow does work. But if it's past noon, we might go with another offer. So please be timely with your offer. Wonderful. They very rarely hide that information. So a simple phone call from your realtor is going to get you that information. And now you know if you need to think about coming in overpriced. In a lot of cases, you're not going to have multiple offers, especially in this market. 2-3 years ago, yeah, we did see that, and that call was incredibly important. Now, not that you couldn't have it. It's worth the call. Make the call. But it's very rare to see multiple offers in this market. So that call will give you that reassurance that, hey, coming in at full price is going to get the job done. We don't need to come in over. Now, that's not saying you got to come in full price every single time. I'm just trying to speak to those people who are like, oh my God, I don't want to lose this. Should we come in over? Don't ever come in over unless you know there's multiple offers and you love the home. That's the only situation. The other strategy, it's called an escalation clause. So instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to give you 460 for your $450,000 home, you say, hey, I'm going to give you 450 for your home. But if there are any other offers, we will go as high as 460 and we'll be $2,000 over the next best offer. But you've got to show us that offer. So if that offer is at 455, we'll be at 457. If it's at 451, we'll be at 453. That's saving you from having to pay that 460. Now you're just paying $2,000 over the next best offer. Now you can change that cap of 460 to 455, 475, anything you want. And you can change that $2,000 over the next best to $500, $5,000, anything you want. Those two numbers you can change to anything you want, but that is what an escalation does, and it helps in a lot of cases. Next, ask for their desired closing date. If closing date is important to you, then write your closing date in. But for a lot of people, when I ask them, how important is closing date to you? And before you answer me, if that was the thing that won you the deal, right, is the fact that you got your price, you got your terms, you got everything you wanted, but you gave them their closing date, would it be worth it to give them their closing date? Probably 80, 90% of my buyers say yes. And then I'll say, great, give me a chance to call the listing agent and ask them if they have a preferred closing date. I'll get back to you. And a lot of times they're either going to say, hey, it's not a big deal. 30 to 45 days anywhere in there works. A lot of agents who don't care about their clients will say 30 days because they want that check right away, right? So I'll say, okay, your client said that, right? But just be aware of that. Sometimes people will say, hey, these guys would really love to have 60 days. I told them they're probably going to get 30 to 45, but they'd like more time to go look for a home. If your clients can do that, man, that'd be huge. Boom, jackpot. Now we can put 60 days in there and we look phenomenal to that seller, right? So those terms are attractive. The other agents probably aren't even calling that listing agent, and they're writing in 30 either because they want to be paid quick or their buyer wants to be in 30, or they just are lazy or whatever it is. They think the seller wants that. That simple phone call tells us additional information that makes your offer look better. That's phenomenal. Now maybe we can come in $5,000 low, right? And we can get that offer still accepted because we've got them terms that they want. Okay, so that's another one. A short inspection period. Now, a lot of my seller clients aren't maybe going to think of this until I explain it, but a good listing agent's going to tell you, hey, anytime you're in an inspection period, you're taking on the risk of marking your home as under contract, right? So if it falls apart, every future buyer is going to think, what's wrong with this house? Is there a roof leak? Is there mold? Is the AC out? What's going on? You don't want that. So the shorter you can make that inspection period, the less likely you are to lose other potential buyers because you're off the market. Now, just because you're marked active under contract, that's what it's called on the MLS, doesn't mean other buyers can't look at it. They can't put in offers, blah, blah, blah. I'm just telling you it doesn't happen, right? If you look at 1,000 transactions, did it happen 1, 2, 3 times? Sure. But does it happen the majority of the time? No. Once you mark it active under contract, showings, interest, offers, they all shut down. So you don't want it shut down for long. A 5-day inspection period, in my opinion, is perfect. There's, I don't want to say no. There's rarely a reason you need longer. Now, a lot of agents just get used to writing 7 days, 10 days. I've seen some write 15 days. That's a big red flag. Not 7, but 10 to 15 is a big red flag because I'm thinking, what are you doing? There is a strategy as a buyer to put an offer in on a couple homes contingent on inspection. Keep looking for homes. Keep putting in offers. Negotiate with all of them on the inspection, and whichever one gives you the best deal, you take that and you cancel the others. I don't want to give you 10, 15 days to do that. If you're going to take advantage of us like that as a seller, which I can't stop you, like you're going to get an inspection contingency unless it's a really hot market, at least I'm going to shorten that period to 5 days. The only reasonable situation I've heard of, I'm sure there's more, where a longer inspection is needed is if you're out of state. Hey, I'm out of state, I'm out of country, whatever it is. I want to physically be there. I can't physically be there. And then you've got a couple choices. Are you going to allow the longer inspection period? Or I'm talking to sellers now. Or a lot of times what I'll say is, hey, if you need a 10-day because you can't be here for another 5 days and you want 5 days to kind of get it done, review it, whatever, why don't you just wait 5 days to put your offer in? Right? That puts a little bit of pressure on them. Now, there's a risk in doing that. You could turn them off and they go look at another home. But I've never had that happen. And most will either wait the 5 days and put the offer in with a 5-day inspection because now they're back, or they'll put it in with the 5-day, or they'll put it in right away and they'll just shorten it up to 5 days or maybe 6 days. And they're going to do it the first day they get back. But all of a sudden, the motivation moves up. And I like that. So as a buyer, if you can give that comfy, cozy, not so much to the seller, but to the listing agent. And if the listing agent gets it, if they're sharp, they're going to explain how valuable that short inspection period is to that seller. And a 5-day is plenty of time. You're going to get an inspector out there in 3, 4, 5 days. Easy. There's a lot of inspectors. My inspector is a big inspector locally, has a lot of agents who uses them, and I think probably 4 days is the longest I've ever waited. I think in the almost 6 years I've been selling here, I've maybe used another inspector once or twice because I couldn't get them out there quick enough. And that's just one inspector. There's a million inspectors. So you shouldn't have a problem getting the inspection done. Next thing, no sales contingency. I got to sneeze. I'm so sorry. Oh, it's coming. Whew, that's That's one of those dad sneezes, man. Excuse me. All right. No sale contingency. So what that means is your offer is coming in what I call clean because it does not require you to sell your home before purchasing that home. Now, if you say, well, Joe, I've got to sell my home before I buy another home. Well, you don't have to. There's HELOCs as an option. There's money in your savings or retirement that are options. And there's pros and cons to all this, right? I'm not saying it's just a slam dunk. There's something called a bridge loan. You might be able to get approved for 2 loans at once. There is the ability to get your home under contract first, get the buyer through the inspection period, and then put your offer in, letting that seller know, hey, I've already got a buyer under contract. We're closing in 21 days. Shouldn't be a problem. That's very attractive. All right. Or close on your doggone home, rent for 1, 2, 3 months, then go out shopping. Yes, the 2 moves and the fact that you're renting at a high rate because it's not a 12-month lease. Again, everything here has pros and cons. Putting in an offer that's contingent on sale is a con, right? Because the odds of getting accepted are very low and your ability to negotiate is almost zero because your negotiation is that crappy term. That's what you take. You can generally take one big thing. You want a big price reduction, everything else better be good looking, right? If you want to be able to sell your home before you buy this home, everything else, including price, better be good looking. So that's a big one right there. There's a lot of strategies if you're in that situation. If you're in that situation, I know people like to use their cousin, their aunt, their sister, whatever. If you're in that type of situation, please get a professional, a top 10 salesman who's done this a lot, who's worked with a lot of buyers, and they will walk you through all of the different strategies with that. But there's a lot of great strategies to help you there. Don't wait to be asked for your pre-approval or your proof of funds. So pre-approval is a letter from your lender that says, hey, Sally and Bob are good to go. They're pre-approved for up to $500,000, and we're only looking at a $450,000 home, so they are great. I've looked at their income. I've looked at their debt. I've looked at their credit. These guys are ready to go. That is a beautiful pre-approval letter. If you can get it from a local lender, that's even better. You might say, why? Because their reputation is on the line. If I hurt my reputation locally, it's going to hurt my network here and my business goes down. But if I'm a lender out in Kentucky or Washington or California, and all of a sudden I have a bad transaction, it doesn't really matter because nobody's ever going to use me there anyway, right? I don't have a reputation in South Florida. So you want someone locally who you know who has a great track record, who does not want to spare their reputation doing the loan there. I see a lot of my buyers will somehow connect with a lender. It might be that they watched the Super Bowl and saw a Rocket Mortgage ad, or it might be that, I bank at Wells Fargo, so I figured Wells Fargo will give me the best deal. Or it might be that, a friend of theirs works in lending and said, hey, call me. I think that those are phenomenal ideas to try it first. But when it comes to actually making the decision, you're going to want to look at 2 or 3 different lenders. If you're looking at a listing agent, you should be looking at 2 or 3 different realtors, right? When you go shopping for cars, you don't hopefully go buy the first car that you see that you like. You go shop around, you find 2 or 3 that really kind of fit what you're looking for. Which one do I like the most? Let's negotiate on that one first. If I don't get the terms and prices that I want, let's go to the second one. Let's see if they'll bend a little bit more, right? If you're financially, if that's your focus is to get a good financial situation for yourself, you're going to do that extra work to shop it. Why wouldn't you do it on a lender? You've got lender A. What if lender B not only is local, but is giving you a better rate, or they're giving you better closing costs? Wouldn't that be phenomenal, right? So you want to make sure that you get that pre-approval letter. Proof of funds shows that you've got the cash for the down payment and the closing costs. So let's just take a typical entry-level home here in Port St. Lucie is about $350,000. Let's say your FHA, that's 3.5% down at the lowest. And let's say you're paying for your own closing costs. You're not asking the seller, which you could, to pay for your closing costs. And those are going to be around 3.5%. That's 7%. 7%. Why would I do that on 350? Let's say it's on 400 grand. 7% on 400 grand is going to be $28,000. If I can show your bank account, your savings account, your 401k, whatever it is, and you've got at least say $35,000 easily covering that 28 that we expect, whoo, that seller feels good about you. They didn't have to ask for it, and it puts you a notch above the others. Now, the others are still probably going to be asked to perform and show it, but as a listing agent, if I've got two offers, one brings me everything I want without asking. The other one, I've got to pull everything out of them. How do I think that transaction is going to go throughout? This one's going to be handing me stuff without me asking. This one over here, it's going to be like pulling teeth every time. It's a pain in the butt. It's time consuming. So what is my human bias brain going to immediately do? Hey, seller, I like this offer a little bit better, right? You want to create that feeling in that biased human mind of that listing agent that you're competing with, right? That's the person you're trying to win over. What else do we got here? Yeah, the realtor reads the MLS. Now, you don't control that, but you do control the realtor that you pick. Don't just pick somebody because you called Zillow and they connected you with a realtor, or it's your cousin or whatever. Pick a doggone professional, someone who sells at least, say, 20 houses a year. And they've been doing this for at least, let's say, 3 years. And they've got enough sales under their belt where they know that there's additional information on the MLS. And pick someone who's diligent. Pick someone who, when you ask them to do something, they don't just do what you said, they do a little bit more. And you think, wow, this person really goes above and beyond at all times without me asking. They're probably doing that behind my back too, which is awesome. That's who I want to hire. On the MLS, I will write things like, please attach the seller's disclosures. They're in the documents. Please attach the HOA addendum. We're in an HOA and it needs to be there. Please attach the lead-based paint addendum. This home was built before 1978, and that's required. If they don't read those instructions and they don't see all those things, now I've got an offer that's half filled, and that's your offer. You want your offer looking amazing, right? So again, you don't have a lot of control here in, do they look at the MLS or not? You can't see that portion. It's in what's called the broker remarks or the private remarks. So a normal buyer isn't going to be able to see that, but you do pick who you hire as your realtor. All right, realtor and lender should call. We already talked a little bit about the realtor calling. Your lender should also call. Why? Hey, everything I want to know is already in that offer if you've done a good job, right? I've already got your pre-approval. I already got your proof of funds. I got the offer with all the attached addenda. Anything I need should be there. But when you as a realtor and you as a lender call me and I get that warm fuzzy from you, and I don't get it from the other 2, 3, 4 offers that I'm looking at, I immediately think this person's going to be incredibly easy to work with. Any problem that pops up, they're going to tell me right away, and they're going to come to me with solutions. All these guys, they're going to come to me at the last moment, if they even come to me, and I'm going to have to create solutions, not even really understanding it because the issue might be on their side, not my side. This is going to be a pain in the butt. So again, going to that biased human brain, I want to go towards these guys who gave me the warm and fuzzy by proactively and professionally calling me. Ask your realtor, ask your lender, please, will you reach out to this listing agent immediately after we put the offer in and talk with them? Make me sound good. Make it sound like I've got money, I've got credit, I've got motivation. I'm a beautiful buyer. And a good a good buyer's agent and a good lender are going to do that. What do we got? We got 2 more. Realtor must communicate regularly. What do I mean by that? Okay, that initial call is important. But what if that listing agent takes 2, 3 days to say yes to that offer? They might be taking 2, 3 days because they're shopping and negotiating with 2 or 3 other offers. If you don't know that, the next news you hear from your buyer's agent could be, we lost. But if you've got someone who's reaching out 2, 3 times a day, probably once in a phone call and another 2 times with texts, saying, hey, my buyers are interested in that home. I know we presented that offer yesterday. Can I get an update? That's a reasonable request for someone who's on pins and needles over a house. So to ask that really isn't a big deal. That agent should get back to you with something. And if there's multiple offers, that's where you're going to find out from that agent, hey, I just want to let you know there's another offer on the table. Do you want to improve your price? Or they might even go so far to say, hey, you're at 450. I've got another offer on the table. It's 455. Do you think that your clients would like to come up at all to compete with this? Boom. Now I've got information that's helpful. Now I'm going to call that agent and I'm going to say, what about terms? Are there any terms that they have or that we have that are different? Are we better? Are we worse? No, all the terms look roughly the same. It's just the 5,000 in price. Great. I'll get right back to you. Now I'm going to call you and I'm going to say, hey, how much would you pay for this house if you knew you had a chance of losing it to somebody else? Because there's somebody else who's got an offer in. Oh, we'll pay 465. Great. Let's put an escalation clause in, like we talked about in the beginning, for 465, but let's make it so that it comes in $2,000 over the next best offer, right? So now we're not wasting that money, assuming that person isn't going to come up at all, but we're also not losing unless that person goes over 465. That'll never be known if you've got a lazy listing agent and your buyer's agent is not making those phone calls, right? So you absolutely want to make those phone calls. Or maybe the listing agent has the buyer and they're going to get a buy side commission and a list side commission. Well, a lot of times they just won't make additional calls. If you call me, I'll tell you, but if you don't call me, well, you didn't call me. I want to be proactive and do that. By the way, that's not ethical. But a lot of times we don't have any way of knowing that. So my job as a buyer's agent is to be incredibly aggressive, not rude, not mean. I want to build a great relationship with that listing agent, but incredibly engaging and communicative to know if something's happening. Last thing. This is kind of a silly one. I've done this twice, and it was in multiple offer situations where I didn't know if we were going to win or not. Some of our terms were worse. Our price was better. Maybe our price was worse, but our terms were better. What's going to be the thing that really tips the scale in our favor? I don't know. And I won both of these. One of them, when we were going through the showing, the seller was there. And it was the man and the woman, and they were all gussied up. She was in a beautiful dress. He was in a suit with a tie. And I said, man, you guys look great. You going out or what? And they said, yeah, we're going to our favorite restaurant. I said, where's that? They told me the restaurant. I said, oh, I love that restaurant. You're going to have a great time there. What do you guys get? Oh, I love getting the steak. She gets the pasta with the chicken. Oh, you guys are going to have a blast. Well, I tell you what, if you guys are leaving, that's fine. I'll close up and lock up when we're done. Now, when we presented the offer, knowing that that was their favorite restaurant, I said, hey, right in there that you're going to give them a $250 gift certificate to that restaurant. And he laughed. My buyer laughed and said, do you think that'll matter? And I said, I tell you what, if you win it over $250, would you be excited about that? And he said, absolutely. And I said, do it. That agent got back and laughed and said, you know, they're going to take your offer. Just the kind gesture of offering the gift certificate to a restaurant they obviously love meant a lot to them. And they wanted to give their home to someone that they really appreciated. Boom, deal done. For $250. Another one, this one was even cheaper, it was $150. We were going through, I can still remember the house. It was on the canal, beautiful house, beautiful lot. And the house looked over the canal. It was stunning. And in the back right portion of the house was kind of like a second family room, but they had another family room on the left side of the home that they used as a family room. So on the right side, it was kind of a, I don't know, a game room, a man cave, something like that. They had a pool table in the middle. They had a dartboard in the corner. And then this guy was a huge Jets fan. So there was Jets memorabilia all over, photos, jerseys, helmets, footballs, you name it, it was up there. And I remember saying to my client, because we were in multiple offers, I said, what if I went to eBay and I found I think it was Wayne Chrebet, who was a receiver back in the day. I said, what if we got a Wayne Chrebet autographed jersey? There's one right here on eBay for $150. And we can write it into the offer. And if they accept the offer, we'll hit the buy button on that eBay. We'll package it up really nicely and we'll bring it to closing for them. An autographed Wayne Chrebet Jets jersey. And they said, do you think that'll really work? And I said, hell yeah, that'll work. It plays to people's emotions and it shows that you're more than just a bunch of numbers and terms on paper. You're a person who sees another person's genuine likes and you're feeding into it. It feels good. And it's the thing that won us that offer. I've only done that twice, but if I ever get into a situation like that, I'll do it again. One cost the person $150, one cost them $250. And they both got well into six figures homes, which is incredible. So, guys, there are several different ways to improve your offers and actually win in a multiple offer situation. The biggest thing, though, in my opinion, it comes down to hiring a great realtor who has a lot of these strategies in their back pocket. They don't need to watch Joe Rosen's video on a Friday at 11 o'clock, and they can instruct you and guide you in a way that makes you feel confident on a lot of these different strategies and how they work specifically for you and your circumstances. Guys, if you've got a great question for next Friday's video, feel free to leave it in the comments or DM me, and I'm happy to use it, where we show up every single Friday at 11 o'clocker, because you've got questions and I've got answers. Guys, have a wonderful Friday and an even better weekend.